Now it's time to talk about the area of setup that's going to probably take you the longest time. And that is setting up the criteria, or what we call the rubrics, that you will use to evaluate your teachers. The reason I say that this will be the area you spend the most time is because even though we are populating your criteria with what we've used at the Academy, you're probably going to want to adjust it for your own use. So if we were to take a higher level look at this, more of an abstract view of the hierarchy, we've got what we call the domain, which is the highest level of organization, and under that categories, then the individual criteria that you use to make your evaluation, and then each one of those has a set of levels, and under that, descriptions that help you define what that particular level looks like for a teacher to achieve. So when we begin building out our criteria, we'll do it in this area on our dashboard, but I thought it would be helpful if you saw it. So when you start building out your criteria, you'll be working with these options under evaluations. But I thought it would be helpful if you saw an actual evaluation already built. So our domain here, teaching. Under teaching, we have various categories. Under these categories, we have criteria. Each criteria has some content. This is called criteria content. And they describe what a teacher would have to achieve or exhibit to reach these various levels. So if they have solid content knowledge, they're professional. If they ramp it up a notch, they're advanced. And if they show extensive content, then they become a lead teacher. Okay, we've looked just at one category, instruction, planning, and preparation, but clicking on any one of these others pulls up other criteria and criteria content. The levels all stay the same, but you can see the criteria and content switching out. Now you can have as many categories as you want and as many criteria as you want under those. So let's take a look at how you might adjust the hierarchy for your situation. So domains, those are the highest level, and at Wheaton Academy we're just using two, teaching and learning, and very easy to change. Just a simple entry and the order that you want it listed in on the actual evaluation. Take a look at levels. So each domain needs to have its own levels. In this case, the levels are exactly the same. They're just repeated for teaching and for learning, and you can establish an order. And if you were to edit that, it would look like this. So if you were to add a new one, you would have to select the domain that it went under. You put in the name and the order, and then save it out. Let's look at categories. Again, they're broken down by domain. So these are all the categories under teaching and all the categories under learning. And if we were to take a look at one, again, you select the domain, put in your title and the order. It's very similar to levels. Now it gets a little bit more complicated as we move over to the individual criteria. But just to review, we've got our domains over here, and under domains we have categories, and under categories we now have criteria. So if we were to look at one, we've got our title, the category it falls under, the order that you want it to appear on the evaluation, and then the individual content blocks. Now, a couple of things to note here. Non-negotiable means that they must achieve this level before they move up to the next one. Disable scoring just means that this will not count towards their score. Now you can't delete criteria and start over because it could adversely affect previous year's evaluations. So you can either update it by changing the content and the title and the category, or you can deactivate it and start over. So once you have your domains, levels, categories, criteria, or the raw material for an evaluation, you can group them into versions. Here's an example of one for learning. I have selected all of the criteria in this case, but if we were to go over and look at a different one, this would be a truncated version. This is under teaching, but I have not selected all of the criteria. So let's say you have a coach. Well, you can create a version for that role. Let me show you how that plays out. So if you were to add an evaluation, we'll give it a title, description, who we're evaluating the year, and here is a list of the different versions that were established over here. So that covers the build out of the rubrics and the criteria, and then creating a version for, or different versions for, an actual evaluation.